It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Nick Fratello, the Global Director of Business Applications here at Microsoft, also known as a Global Black Belt. Nick brings deep expertise in Dynamics 365, the Microsoft Power Platform, and AI solutions as a whole. And he's led transformative initiatives across enterprise account management, digital transformation, and customer experience strategy. He's been very instrumental in shaping today's session, conducting multiple practice runs, refining the presentation deck, and developing a very powerful call to action framework to help organizations like yourselves get started on their frontier journey. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Nick Fratello as he guides us through what it truly means to become a frontier firm, an organization that embraces AI-first strategies to drive measurable outcomes, enhance employee experiences, and reimagine the business.
Jeffrey, thank you so much. And as I get my screen up to snuff here, just want to get a confirmation. I see the red box, which is great. That's always the first. If I could get a thumbs up, I don't know if it will come through when I'm projecting, but yep, I see some. So excellent. So Jeffrey, thank you. Really appreciate just the warm introduction and all the work that the Master Series has done. It's really, the pace of innovation has been really accelerating in the world that Jeffrey and many of us help to listen and align our customer success at Microsoft. And so today we want to highlight, what does it mean to become a frontier firm? There's a lot that goes into that, and you're going to hear more of that over the course of the coming weeks. And again, if we haven't met, my name is Nick Fratello. I am a director supporting our customers across the Americas. Specifically in the AI business solutions arena. I've been with Microsoft 12 years and I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts. The presentation that I'm going to share with you today, we will make it available and we'll provide the link at the end of today's session. So feel free to leverage the recording, screen shares as well. We want this to be for you so that we can accelerate your success. So when we think of becoming frontier, that comes from a study that Microsoft did, which is rooted in the Work Trend Index for 2025. There's over 31,000 people that were surveyed across 31 countries, and Microsoft has the telemetry and signal of all of that productivity. So the logins into Windows, the telemetry from LinkedIn, the authentications and the files across M365. So those trillions of signals married with interviews with economists as well as technologists as to what is the ethos of the work trend and sort of the momentum. And there's four main pillars that came out of that. AI is essentially reshaping all of our organizations to think and tread new paths in the form of being frontier firms. And that's what we're going to hone in on today. The human agent collaboration, it's really changing how us as information workers and engaging with our customers and to be able to leverage these platforms to be able to redefine those roles. So my interaction with agents in the course of my day is constantly evolving, and we're going to take a look at that in today's demo. When we think of the literacy and what does a large language model and what does model context protocol servers and what are some of the vernacular that's really been introduced into our lexicons over the last 2 or 3 years, right? That's part of the growth mindset that we need to invest in and understand what are these tools capable of and how can I weave them into my daily workflow. It's really no different than the embrace of Microsoft Office over the last 35 years. But it's how it's shaping not only our cultures, but also kind of the workforce strategies. What are the right ratios of worker to agents and becoming a boss of those agents and be able to manage that at scale and really to help the overall productivity to help you achieve more. And so when we think of the impact to organizational design, all of this is really, it's a phenomenal read and there's a tremendous amount of detail that go into it, but it's kind of the grounding of where and how did the term frontier firm get born. And so I welcome you to take a look at it It's at the URL at the bottom, which is aka.ms/WTI, which is Work Trend Index. So let's take a look at the success framework that Microsoft is leveraging to help accelerate and help our customers ingest and leverage these agents and AI and generative capabilities. But it really starts with, how do we empower you? And the most important asset of any organization is enriching those employee experiences. How do we, in the course of your day-to-day action, take advantage of the copilots that are inside the tools and platforms that have been embraced across Microsoft to really help reinvent your touch point and the brand promise that you've given from a customer engagement? How do we reinvent that? How do we create new revenue streams or help to exceed your expectations in delivering your customers' goods and services? It starts by reshaping those business processes, right? That workflow in the day of the work of whether it's launching a new product or synthesizing data or unlocking new ambition to try to create innovative products to help you compete faster. Ultimately, how can we help accelerate your success? So that success framework is going to act as a starting point for how can we leverage and become AI first. Again, it starts with unlocking that human ambition. It's giving me the superpowers to leverage things like Python or to marry the copilots to work on my behalf and to help accelerate the manual tasks that I do on a daily basis. And it starts with agents. We're going to take a look at researcher and analyst and some of the agents that are baked into the capabilities native to Microsoft 365. And part of that is woven into really the approach. When we think of that success framework and how do we, in a crawl, walk, run, cartwheel, how do we take that from a framework and marry that to the approach and how we can help provide solutions? When we think of, where does that solution set live? It begins with the applications that you're using on a daily basis. So that could be applications in Office and M365, Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint, but also married with intelligent applications that are built to change the structure of how you're working with customers, meaning CRM and ERP, and building on that ability of hyperscale infrastructure and to be able to bring in cognitive capabilities, that muscle, and marry that with DevOps because it's all built on a hyperscale secure infrastructure that's built around identity and role-based access controls. So when we think of, how can we help you accelerate on this journey? Jeffrey began with what the Master Series is here. It's for you to help your learning. And so with that, we want to actually ask a quick question. And I think this is going to be added to the poll. But when you think of how would you describe your organization's mindset today with regards to innovation and transformation? Jeffrey, if you could put the poll in, that would be great.
Yep, should be up now.
So although I'm not able to see the results because I'm sharing my full screen, the spectrum of where we are within these journeys, right? Just like embracing the cloud or mobility, embracing and adopting AI is probably a 10, 15, maybe a 25-year paradigm shift. And when we think of that journey to become frontier, we're all at various points, and every organization is at various points. That's where we want to start to understand where is the mindset and what are some of the things that matter most. If we go on to the next poll question, Jeffrey, we want to make sure what are some of the barriers that you see to becoming a frontier firm, right? Is it reskilling your people? Is it general education? Is it overall? Is it that culture mindset? Is it begin with strategy and leadership, right? There's an evolution of what do those success recipes look like, and ultimately that mix to be able to right size based on each organization, because no two organizations are the same. So if we can capture that, that'd be great.
Yep, we're good.
I'll give it a couple more seconds. And so what we want to do in today's demonstration is specifically hone in on an organization that's embraced becoming frontier from its core, and it's called Zava, and we'll take a look at it next.
Zava hits a new high.
Leading innovator Zava.
Zava's like
Startup Zava.
Zava.
Zava does it again. What a journey from scrappy startup to global game changer.
What if clothing could think?
Weaving together technology and comfort.
Up-and-coming startup Zava is launching its first smart textile, Thermocore, designed to turn heat into data and fabric into intelligence.
Zava's like, why strap a sensor on your wrist when you can weave it into what you wear every day?
Thermocore was just the beginning. Introducing ZavaCore. It doesn't just stretch and breathe, it thinks. And we're bringing it to the world's best athletes.
Zava goes public today.
The intelligent textile market continues to heat up, and leading innovator Zava is upping the game.
Zava hits a new high.
From professional locker rooms to the runway, Zava blurs the line between fitness, fashion, and innovation.
You've seen the pros rave about their ZavaCore jerseys. Now Zava is bringing it to any athlete, including your local Little League team.
Their AI-first approach is a huge reason for their meteoric rise.
And now, we're bringing ZavaCore technology to the pitch with a brand new line of intelligent soccer cleats, allowing both players and coaches to track stats and performance direct from the match.
So tell us, what's the secret to your success?
18 months ago, we made a conscious decision to really weave AI into the fabric of Zava as a company, all in our pursuit of becoming frontier.
Pretty impressive, right? When we think of all of the pivoting that Zava did in order to really accelerate, not only going from a IPO, but making sure that they have the ability to start with their employees to be able to bring product to the consumer market, to pivot into a professional market, and then ultimately pivot again into bringing an intelligent cleat to market, right? The demonstration that we want to bring that Zava and that fictitious embrace, we want to make sure that we're bringing in a focal or a focus point on enriching employee experiences. And not only is it Zava, but there's multiple companies that are starting to begin that journey and start to accelerate. One that I love to highlight is Pacific Gas and Electric. They've stated publicly that they've saved over $75 million by leveraging Microsoft's Power Platform. Now they have hundreds of solutions and automations, but it's built on a culture that has embraced this becoming frontier mindset. And they've not only embraced the Power Platform, but they've unlocked a massive amount of cost savings in their help desk and their support center by reducing their engagement by 25% by leveraging their Peggy chatbot. Now this chatbot has saved over 840 hours in unlocking SAP and unlocking, common questions that can easily be done and automated from an intelligent agent. I want to share the actual story, and I'm going to ask Robert or Jeffrey if they could paste a little bit of the URLs for that story, because it goes into how PG&E is not only thinking of how they're becoming frontier, but it's a great example of how you can feed a growth mindset in industries where automation can help fuel not only differentiation, but also an acceleration of your operations. So not only is it PG&E, but it's PayPal, it's BMW. And my family loves to travel. One of the things that we're thinking of is how can we start to tailor those experiences of travel. And you're looking at how Holland America has been able to take advantage of that. There are hundreds of customer stories, and I welcome you to visit Microsoft.com/customers. But when we think of how is Holland America leveraging it, they're starting at the bookings process, really the tip of the spear in starting to engage their customers and to provide those rich experiences. So one of the ways that they've done this is through their Anna chatbot. Anna is built on Microsoft's low-code agent platform, which is Microsoft Copilot Studio. And what they've done is they've been able to accelerate and provide an even better cruise experience and increase bookings while reducing the calls coming into their call center. So not only have they shaped, here is the engagement, but they've provided rich experiences inside of this chat agent to really start to differentiate, and the numbers don't lie. They have been very effective in not only handling 15,000 conversations on a weekly basis, but they've also increased their bookings over $7 million through Anna. So when we think of the real commercial impact, it's beginning that journey of how can you start to take those experiences that might have some friction and to be able to apply intelligence, to be able to capture that signal back into your digital flywheel and understand and keep a digital posture of what differentiates your organization in the eyes of that customer through that brand promise. By reducing that mundane, that is what it means to become frontier. And so, Jeffrey, the next question that I want to ask in the poll is really, where would you place your company when it comes to adopting AI, and where do you feel that you are in this journey today?
Yeah, Nick, I've got that out there right now. So are you kind of, is everybody just kind of exploring, dipping their toe in? Are you experimenting with things? Have you already started to operationalize, or are you seeing real transformation already taking place in your organizations?
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. And this helps us to understand what are the best ways that we can provide additional learnings and master series content, right? We're here to make sure that you're successful. So we want to make sure that as we bring in the demonstration and we highlight specific things, that we're laser focused on what matters to you most. So for the demonstration, we want to have a focus on how are we enriching those customers' experiences, or I'm sorry, those employee experiences. We're going to highlight not only M365 and the copilots and the agents that are woven within it, but we're going to marry the extensibility, and we're going to showcase how an agent can help ZavaCore not only pivot and plan a launch, but also bring a new product to market faster. So when we think of what does that story look like, it's making sure that we can highlight and bring together the capabilities that are built into M365. If you haven't used the researcher agent or analyst agent, we'll take a look at that because it's extremely powerful. But it's in the theme of bringing a new product to market to help synthesize some competitive data. We'll then continue the story with Copilot Studio, which again is the low-code agent platform for being able to create that launch agent and to bring forward sort of that muscle to be able to help information workers like me that don't know how to code to be able to interact with model context protocol servers and to leverage things like Python to extract insights from, let's say, messy data. So with that, let's take a look at the demo and pivot over. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and the slideshow, and if someone could let me know when they see my browser, that would be great. I think I see some thumbs up.
Looks good, Nick. We can see it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate it. So imagine I'm the marketing manager for Zava, and I begin and start my day in M365 Copilot. It's really the window into AI for everything for AI work related. So in M365, I have it as a desktop application. I also have it as a browser like I'm using here today, but I also have it on my mobile device. It's actually in the Outlook experience. And so everything that is here is also mobile friendly, which is great. When we think of what does the M365 Copilot experience begin with, there's search, that's AI infused. There's chat that allows me to reason over the web and work data. And that's also where I have multi-step agents like Analyst and Researcher. And then I also have the ability to aggregate and reason over specific references of documents, sites, recordings inside dedicated notebooks. And I can also create videos and images that are brand appealing and posters in my ability to create. One of the things that I love most about the Copilot capabilities and M365 is really the ability to have a pre-scheduled prompt that's actually listening for competitive information and understanding what is happening across my inbox as well as the marketplace. here I've got a alert that has been triggered based on the competitive landscape for smart wearables. Now, you'll notice one of the great things is that this is highlighting a secure framework, or it's bringing in, it is highlighting that security label directly here from within Copilot. And when I'm able to, I can click on the Outlook integration, and I can take an action directly from M365 Copilot. Now, clicking on the actual email, it's going to bring up the email that has a tremendous amount of detailed documentation. So if I take a look at it, there's a wealth of detail that's here. And frankly, I just don't have I need to be able to dive in and understand what's the impact. And so with that, I'm going to turn to Copilot again, and I'm going to leverage the researcher agent. Now, I'm going to give that researcher a prompt, and I'm going to ask it to compare NanoFlex to the tech specs that we have from a competitive perspective, and be able to give it that prompt to be able to take action. Now, you'll notice right away that that agent is giving me secure information that's highly confidential. So Microsoft Purview is smart enough to know this is the access that I, as Nick, have, and I'm only going to give the information that is available to me. I'm going to, having trouble with, there we go. So one of the things that you'll notice is the clarification. And the clarification, just like as if I gave this over to a colleague, whether it's Jeffrey or Robert, they're going to clarify, what is it that you're looking for? Do you have specific attributes that you want me to focus on? Is there a specific source or documentation? So again, just like having a PhD in my pocket, it's going to clarify, hey, what are you trying to determine? And so I'm going to give it a little bit of additional clarity in the prompt, and then tell it to go create a comparison document based on, a rich research that it has access to. And again, it's going to respect that security label, and we can see that here. And also, if I open up, this is the thought chain of what's happening across that fetch of information. I'm just going to move this. How can we help to take advantage of all of that, right? And I apologize, I got something on my screen here. And so when we think of how we can, dive into all of that rich data, it's taking all of the steps. And what's excellent is that it's showing me this is where I'm reaching out to. This is what is fueling my response. So you'll notice that it's assessing competitive information. It's understanding the strategic document that I have access to, that I fed it. And with that, I can go and see all the steps, and I can really verify what's the researcher doing on my behalf. And frankly, to go and take all of those steps, it would take me, a tremendous amount of time. So when I have a chance, I can dive into not only the executive summary, but I can start to come down and I can understand, here's the rich, almost SWOT analysis that this researcher is doing on my behalf. So it's giving me a competitive landscape, it's highlighting the innovation differences, where we might be able to pivot our product launch and how we can take advantage of it. Part of that is a recommendation that it says we should pivot into professional sports teams. And so with that, we have a tremendous amount of data. And in that data, it might be messy and in multiple tables and tabs, kind of scattered all over the place. Just like many of our projects, the challenge is I don't need to be a data analyst. I have Copilot on my behalf. And with that, I'm going to turn back over to the to the analyst. And that analyst, I'm going to give a prompt. Now, the analyst, again, is a multi-step data scientist in my pocket. And I'm going to ask it to comb through that data, identify the total addressable market, understand the kind of taxonomy and sort of that messy nature. And one of the things that you'll notice right away is that it's using Python, right? It's unlocking a capability that, frankly, I'm not smart enough to know Python. So the ability to dive into that and to be able to leverage and unlock a new skill, my human ambition, that's great, right? As a marketer, I love that. So when we think of how can we start to accelerate, we're not only taking that rich Python experience, but it's starting to extract the insights. And you'll notice right away that it's giving me a opportunity to identify these are the 3 total addressable markets and why. Not only synthesizing all of that data, but being able to, extract insights where it would take me, days, weeks to do that, and a specialty in order to, kind of leverage that from a muscle perspective. Again, becoming frontier is about unlocking your human ambition through the use of agents and Copilot. Now, it's not only the rich synthesis of that data, but it's also giving me visual artifacts. Now, at ZavaCore, we're a data-driven company. So as I go back to our leadership to say, this is how we want to not only go to market, but sort of pivot, these are the type of assets that I'm going to need in order to share with our board. And with that board presentation, it's not only just leveraging the data, but we actually need a rich presentation. So with that, I'll turn to PowerPoint. Now, for those that know me, they know I love PowerPoint, right? But one of the things that isn't really fun is to be able to copy and paste a lot of that table and text. So I'm going to leverage that same document and have PowerPoint leverage that on my behalf. So I'm going to paste in a prompt, and I'm going to say, look at this value proposition and also the strategy document that we've already aggregated a lot of it. Feed that into the prompt, and you'll notice that right away it goes into, on my behalf, start building an outline for that board-ready presentation. So as a co-collaborator, I can actually start to move these around, and when I feel comfortable, I can ask it to generate a new presentation. And you'll see right away that it's using our board-ready framework and understanding all of the information that was locked inside that Word document and being able to create the taxonomy as well as the outline of what makes sense from a board presentation. I think that's pretty amazing, right? So what we just saw is marrying the agents to do competitive analysis, the co-pilots married with that productivity workflow in order to help me create a presentation that's board ready in really just a couple minutes. So when we think of, great, for our story, we've just presented to our board. And now we're going to pivot to waiting to understand, hey, great, you just got a approval, right? That approval email that I just received, it's like great news, wonderful. It is really like getting a bib to a marathon. It's now you have all the hard work, meaning you've got the hard work to be able to develop a launch plan, kick off that stakeholder alignment, and really start to take the approval that you get from the board and instantly start to, take all of the steps. Luckily, I've got a launch agent that works on my behalf. So as soon as I receive this email, I have an agent that is listening and starting to synthesize that data on my behalf. And so I'm presented with what that looks like in Teams. And part of the action that it's taking is not only identifying who needs to be responsible for what type of ownership in that RACI document or that RACI understanding of who has responsibility, but it's understanding and pulling in the right agents. So here we have one agent engaging an inventory planning agent, all embedded within a agent that I built not as a developer, but as a business and information worker. So let's take a look at that in Microsoft Copilot Studio. In Copilot Studio, I have a rich one page of here is all of the instructions that I gave it, right? It's a one stop for understanding the knowledge, the tools, and the agents of what goes into this agent specifically. So I started by giving it general instructions. I said I wanted to monitor for a specific approval. I want to notify the specific stakeholders, and then I want you to coordinate through model context protocols to be able to engage with additional data and have an agent-to-agent experience. Pretty awesome. In addition, I really just started with giving a natural language description and just a few sentences, give it an ethos of what it's focused on and why. And when we think of how can we start to build these out, I then gave it some knowledge. right? I pointed it to some repositories that were, available to me from a competitive standpoint, our internal SharePoint. We have some additional collateral that I gave it in order to understand that not only the actions, but the abilities that I wanted to reason over. In addition to those knowledge repositories, what makes this autonomous is the trigger of receiving that email, right? Again, it's giving a listen to specific subjects and authors and what does that specific email in order to kick off that agent, right? So that trigger is available here. When we think of additional actions, that's where we think about the tools. Tools is where we can take the actions and capabilities that I want this agent to have. Here, I've given it the ability to send email, listen for a specific prompt, but you'll also know that it's interacting with dynamic SKU and component data through the use of a model context protocol. Now, when we say model context protocol, these are advanced ways for the agent to be able to receive data and understand the context in which its schema is representative, meaning it can have an interaction with Dataverse tables in Microsoft Dataverse, or whether it's sales, service, or your contact center, these model context protocol servers are native integrations to be able to do advanced fetching with context so that me as a business analyst, I don't have to explain what each of these applications or arenas of schema mean to the agent overall. So when we think of how do we take that from a tool perspective, there's also the interaction to engage with additional model context protocol servers. So my IT team has set up a dynamic SKU agent to be able to understand what are the inventory and supplier SKU level from an inventory perspective. And that allows the launch agent to be able to leverage real-time dynamic data. And in addition, that agent is also leveraging an inventory planning agent. That inventory planning agent is able to interact on a rules-based engine to be able to bring that forward. And everything that I've shared with you is how I created this agent, but launching a product isn't just about, setting up the agent itself. I also need to create a go-to-market strategy document. And so with that, I'm going to leverage the same tool capabilities, and I'm going to create a new tool, give it a prompt through natural language that helps to outline, this is what I need from a strategy documentation. Now, you'll notice that I'm using the standard model of GPT-4. What I can do is I have access to over 11,000 models in Microsoft Azure AI Foundry. And so that gives me the power of choice. It also gives me the ability to piggyback on all the rich assets that our DevOps team are leveraging inside of Azure and AI Foundry and make that available to me right here within this experience. So although I'm using the standard model, I have over 11,000 choices inside of Copilot Studio. So as I save this agent, I need to test it. So I'm going to add it to an agent, and you'll see as I save it, I'm going to give it a prompt in order to test the agent. And I want to test it based on the document that we created earlier. And so again, I'm going to leverage that, and you'll instantly notice that it goes to work on my behalf, meaning it's going to bring together all of, it's going to bring together all of the model context protocol that we saw, but it's also going to leverage that inventory that we looked at. It's going to understand all of the thought chain and how I can start to take advantage of that so that I can kind of test as a business analyst in full control. Here's how the agent is working on my behalf as a marketer to help launch this new product. So with that, I have not only the go-to-market document, and it's going to give me a rich taxonomy using our brand templates. And so when I look at everything that's embedded within this, I can quickly see that it's using our brand templates to be able to bring that, all of that rich understanding to help me go to market faster. And that's where we can take advantage of not only the co-pilots, but also the agents in order to leverage that data and kind of bring it back into how do we achieve more and how do we unlock that personally, my personal ambition. So with that, I'm going to pivot back to take a look at what we just saw. And just making sure you can see.
Yep, looks good, Nick. Back to the slides.
Excellent, thank you. So part of what we just saw in making sure that we're kind of taking advantage of not only the story of Zava, but leveraging the agents that we saw, right? So we took advantage of the off-the-shelf agents, leveraging researcher and analyst, which are multi-step, really massive amount of horsepower to be able to help me achieve more. But what we also saw is really that 5-in-1 capabilities across M365 Copilot. It's involved with chat, which is secure AI chat, which is looking at your web and grounded in your work data. It's also AI-infused search, leveraging the agents that we took a look at in researcher and analyst, but also notebooks. We didn't take a look at notebooks, but it's one of my personal favorites. The ability to add specific resources, whether it's PDFs, recording, public web pages, internal documentation, SharePoint pages, and start to reason over that and ask questions, just like I would, researcher, is pretty powerful. And then I also have the ability to create. So let's take a look at each of these. When we think of chat, we think of how can we start to have a dialogue with our work data, and it's infused with the latest models, right? That allows us to be able to think differently and unlock additional ambitions. When we think of that search, right, we have data everywhere. And how do we ask, when was a specific topic mentioned with my colleague, Jeffrey, with regards to this client? Copilot's going to be able to point us in the right direction faster. When we think of those notebooks, again, we can reason over a defined set of assets and bring that into our really kind of our workflow. When we think of creating of assets, of posters and notifications, even things like for this master series that we're on today, being able to leverage AI to quickly come up with themes and assets that adhere to our marketing with logos and thought and ethos is really a massive game changer. When we think of agents, that's where we can leverage internally built agents like researcher and analyst, but also third party, right? That agent store so that you can start to offer these to your clients, bring that into a muscle and leverage non-Microsoft assets right within the work of Copilot Studio. Now, Microsoft has done the work in order to build these first-party agents in researcher and analyst, and we want to extend that, right? How do we tailor that like we saw in the demonstration for Zava, leveraging that launch planning agent to speak to an inventory planning agent? That's where we can build our own, but we can also bring our own into that knowledge repository. Whether it's Azure AI Foundry or bringing in those custom agents, IT and governance want to be able to understand if I leave the company, this is how it has role-based access controls. And so those systems and governance to be able to manage that and be compliant is built from the ground up. When we think of why Microsoft and some of those agents, it begins with researcher and analysts that are available today, but also the skills agent, the facilitator agent in Microsoft Teams. We're using Teams on a daily basis, and the ability to synthesize those recordings, those next best actions, as well as who said what and what was the sentiment. That's where those sales agents, we're lucky enough to use those on a daily basis, and they have changed how I work on a daily basis. It is a massive unlock in regards to potential. And also from a project management perspective. All of these agents are part of really an ecosystem that at the heart of it begins with Microsoft Copilot Studio because it's married to M365 and it has the ability to connect into all of the data. In our demonstration, we showed how Outlook and Excel can kind of play a role with PowerPoint in helping me quickly pivot from a product standpoint. But that doesn't stop the productivity because that same schema and that same graph of information is married with our sales capabilities, as well as our contact center and our customer service. So when we think of dynamics and the differentiation that M365 has, it's because Copilot Studio was born in the Microsoft Power Platform and about 7 years ago as Power Virtual Agent. And when we think of that Power Platform, it's used today by over 48 million monthly active users, and it consists of apps, the ability to automate, to bring secure pages, as well as fuel a data-first taxonomy of AI and insights in Power BI. And when we think of all of how that comes together, that's where we can help to unlock your potential in becoming Frontier. When we think of the first-party applications, we can think about how does that impact your ability to provide service? Going back to Holland America. So whether it is a customer-facing agent like Anna, or if it's in your contact center, or if it's for customer service, the sales agent and that customer experience to be able to help us fuel or to field the experiences for our customers, that's where we can start to understand and comb through that vast series of data to understand what's the next best action to help exceed customer expectations. When we think about operations and all of the gymnastics that finance has to do in order to close the books and understand reconciliation, and married that with supply chain, there's a wealth of opportunities to take the muscle that we saw today to enrich those employee experiences, but really to empower our customers and you as our customer to be able to achieve more. And all of this is because it's built on hyperscale infrastructure, which is the Power Platform. Now, when we think of the assets that go into why Microsoft and a little bit of that story, it began with M365 and the extensibility of Copilot to be able to create those low-code agents. When we marry that with the developer and the DevOps capabilities and platforms of GitHub and Azure AI Foundry, that's when we start to unlock that no cliffs development, right? There's not enough developers out in the market today in order to build all of the solutions and the integrations that are possible. So that's where we can start to accelerate with natural language inside of GitHub, as well as take advantage of the latest models and infrastructure in Azure AI Foundry. When we marry that with our first-party applications of Dynamics, of sales, service, and call center, we really start to weave in a analysis and data-first fabric in order to bring a muscle that begins with data, but it's rich in insights to be able to wield not only Microsoft data, but to ingest data from third party, whether it's Snowflake or AWS, et cetera. But only Microsoft can bring you all of this red thread of productivity because each one of these is integrated and provides hyperscale connectivity to the world's infrastructure sitting on top of the hyperscale infrastructure of Microsoft Azure. So when we think of how do you get started, there's a lot that we can help to assist with. And so first off, we want to tailor the impact, very much like Pacific Gas and Electric and how they've quantified that they've saved $75 million. We want to tailor this based on your specific key outcomes, right? The key performance indicators and what are the things that you're focused on. Identify the friction in your organization, but identify here's where we can add value. Here's where we can reduce the mundane and help to increase the focus on more strategic conversations, which enrich the employee experience. We also want to invite you into our innovation hubs. These are across the United States and globally to be able to envision, to collectively understand and see the latest and to ideate with your teams. Those innovation hubs are really a magical arena in which to listen and engage and to understand what does that crawl, walk, run in accelerating your success over the long term. Now, on the adoption side, there's a wealth of resources. And so each organization is at a different point on their journey. So we also want to make sure that we're listening to what are the aspects that you want to adopt and leverage the right resources. But we have a wealth of teams and resources that are available to you. There's a lot of assets on this slide. So when we think of training and scale and communities, and as well as, what is it that you need from a muscle building perspective. Everything that I'm sharing is available at this URL down at the bottom. So the aka.ms becoming frontier MS, I want to make sure that you have access to that, because awareness is our biggest Achilles heel. It's the fact that these assets are out here in order to fuel your success, but we want to make sure that you have not only assets, but also the community. And that community is getting together in Las Vegas, October 28th at the Power Platform Conference. We want to welcome you to the event. We encourage you to ask your Microsoft representative for potential passes and how can we help to get you to the event. We're anticipating close to 10,000 people. This is the 5th year that the Power Platform Conference has been assembled in Las Vegas, and it really is magical to be able to get customers that are in this becoming frontier and crossing the chasm from where they are to where they want to go with low code, with agents, with AI. And it really is an opportunity to dive in and to accelerate not only your career, but the outcomes for your organization. My name is Nick Fratello. I want to say thank you for the time today. Everything that I've shared is going to be available at that aka.ms becoming frontier MS. And if you have any questions, we can certainly stick around and make sure that you have everything from a resource perspective. But with that, I want to say thank you and appreciate the time today.
Thanks, Nick.